Hello, and welcome to today's story. If you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more. The story you're about to hear is based on accounts and rumors. Its full truth can't be confirmed. Now sit back, relax, and let's dive right in. I'm not asking for advice. I'm writing this so I can hear it out loud later. I'm writing it so there's a version of me that can't be drugged into forgetting. Names changed, dates blurred, places are wrong on purpose, but the pill is real. And if you've seen the man who sells it, the one who asks if you're ready to remember, don't answer him. Smile. Walk away, look at your hands and make sure they're empty. Because I looked down and mine weren't. There was a small black capsule sitting in the center of my palm, the shell matte, almost velvety, with a faint seam like a fingernail pressed into wax. Cold, even in summer heat. Heavy for its size. It felt like a key. The man who gave it to me wasn't my regular guy. Not weed, not powder, not paper. He dressed like a person who never learned what decade it is. Thin dark coat even in August. Hair too neat to be street. Clean hands, no shakes, no slang. He smiled without teeth and said the line like he'd rehearsed it for a century. "Before you take this," he said, voice soft as a lullaby, "ask yourself if you're really ready to see what's real." I laughed. Of course I laughed. The alley smelled like warm garbage and fryer grease from the diner next door. I'd slept 2 hours the night before, and I was stupid in exactly the way people get before they do something irreversible. I made a joke about Morpheus and pills. He didn't laugh. His eyes didn't move. "You always laugh," he said, "right before you ask me what it costs." "What does it cost?" "We'll settle later." "We always do." I asked what it was. "It's a memory," he said. "Yours." Whose supply chain did that come through exactly? Do you want it or not? He didn't make me pay then. He pressed the capsule into my hand and folded my fingers over it like he was putting a coin into a dead man's mouth. His skin was dry and warm, the kind of warmth you get from standing under a light too long. "You've been here before?" he added. His conversation is muscle memory. "But maybe this time you won't run from the rest." He stepped back. Streetlight blinked again. On the third blink, he was gone. I told myself I'd throw it away. I told myself I'd sleep. I told myself a lot of sane things. I walked home with the capsule ticking in my hand like a seed. My apartment looked like my apartment. That's the first thing I tell people when I tell this story out loud, because they always think the floor melted the second I stepped through the door. Number. Reality prefers slow knives. I put the capsule on the kitchen counter. It made a sound when it touched the laminate. Not plastic, not glass, not metal. Something in between. I stared at it. It stared back without eyes. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You promised." I typed back the world's most creative reply. "Who is this?" No response. I ordered cheap noodles I wouldn't eat, poured tap water, walked past the mirror in the hall and didn't look. I told myself I was in control. The pill sat on the counter like a punctuation mark, and I went to the sink, turned on the tap. The water came out in a single perfect thread, like a wire. I waved my hand through it. It didn't break. The hum of the fridge stretched. The second hand on the wall clock jumped 2 ticks, then 3, then crawled back to where it had been. Embarrassed, the capsule sat there patiently. I picked it up. I held it like a lie. The seam glimmered in the kitchen light. My phone rang at my number. The caller ID said exactly that. "Me." I answered. Of course I did, on the other end, my voice. Thinner, hoarse, like I'd been crying or had smoke in my throat. Please, don't take it, not yet." "What is this?" I asked. "Who is this?" "Listen to me. You asked for it. You always ask for it, and you always forget why. That's the point. But there are rules. If you don't respect the rules, it sees you." "What does?" "It doesn't have a name you can say without it hearing. Just Don't swallow. Keep it in your hand. Wait for me. I looked at the door because that's what you do when someone says, wait for me. No one was there. The hallway beyond my peephole was empty. The neighbor's shoes still crooked by their door. The dead plant in its pot, still dead. What rules? I asked. The call clicked. Deadline. I put the phone down. I picked up the phone again. Checked my recent calls. No record. I laughed a little too loudly. I picked the capsule up and held it to the light because I needed something to do with my hands. There was a shadow inside it, like a picture at the bottom of a glass. I did not swallow it. I held it. I waited. I tried to think of the last time I'd slept 3 nights in a row without waking to check the locks. I tried to remember what it felt like to walk down a street and not feel watched. That's when the mirror in the hall found me. I didn't even mean to look. That's another rule I should have listened to. Don't make eye contact with yourself when you don't trust the room. But I turned, and there I was, framed by cheap IKEA wood, the hall too narrow and the ceiling too low. My reflection held up its hand. The capsule was in the wrong hand. I froze. I looked at my real hand, capsule in the right. Reflection held it in the left. Not a big deal, my brain said, because that's how mirrors work, but I don't wear a watch and the reflection did. A leather strap, too tight, a little worn, the face fogged like someone had breathed on it in cold air. I raised my left hand. The reflection raised its right. Our watches didn't match because I don't own a watch. The reflection smiled. I didn't. The reflection mouthed something. I couldn't hear it. I put the capsule between my teeth so I could free a hand to touch the glass. The capsule tasted metallic. My tongue went numb at the edges. The reflection pressed his palm to the other side, and for a second I felt heat through the cheap mirror like there was a bulb behind it. He mouthed it again. Slower, exaggerated, a teacher with a stubborn student. Don't. I spit the capsule into my hand. Behind me, my phone buzzed again. Different tone. That little glassy clink the messaging app makes. The sound hit my spine. Unknown number, turn around. I didn't. That felt like another rule. There are only so many times you can feed a joke to a haunted room. I'm not playing, I said to the mirror. My voice sounded too loud in the narrow hall. Someone upstairs coughed. My reflection smile died in a way mine didn't, like the muscles in his face were arranged in a slightly different pattern. He lifted his other hand, and there was a scar across the knuckles I don't have. I stepped away. The hallway stretched. Not a trick of perspective, not the way spaces feel longer when you stare. It grew. The air thinned as if something big had inhaled somewhere nearby. I should have left the apartment. I should have thrown the pill out the window and gone to a bar full of normal people yelling about sports. Instead, I went into my living room and pulled the photo albums from the bottom shelf because a small mean part of me decided that if reality wanted to play games, I'd pick the board. I'm not sentimental. I only keep the albums because my mother made them. School pictures, birthdays, the 10th grade haircut I still have nightmares about. I opened one at random. It wasn't random. There's a picture in there that I've seen 100 times. Me at 6 years old, hair stuck up with cake, candles melted into frosting, my father in the background holding a camcorder like he's reading instructions written in another language. The picture was still there. My ridiculous shirt, my gap-toothed smile. But behind my father, by the doorway, was a man in a dark coat, slightly out of focus. He was looking at the camera. I flipped the page. First day of school photo. Me clutching a backpack like it had a handle that could keep me from being swept away. My mother kneeling to fix the collar I'd already ruined. The same man, leaning against the brick of the school, hands in his pockets, not quite looking at me, looking past me, looking at the camera again. I flipped pages until my fingers hurt. The man was in every picture that had a place for him, always a little blurry, always where your eyes didn't go at first, always looking like he belonged there until you asked why. Exactly, a man in his 30s is standing behind a dozen 10-year-olds on field day. I checked the earliest album. Newborn me, red and furious, my mother all shine and sweat, my father pretending not to cry. There, in the glass of a cabinet door behind them, a dark coat, a reflection that doesn't quite align, a face turned toward the lens. "You've been here before," the dealer had said. I closed the album. I put it back on the shelf. I did it very carefully, like I thought the wrong move would shatter the room. Another text. "Unknown number, open your front door." Another text before my thought could finish. "Please?" I did the worst possible thing. I looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. The yellow light in the ceiling buzzed. The cheap carpet had a stain that looked like a single giant handprint. There were no feet outside my door, no shadows, but the peephole showed distortion at the edges, that fisheye warping, and within that warping something moved like heat above asphalt. "Hello?" I said before I could stop myself, because we're all trained to make ourselves visible to the thing outside the door, to prove we're human and worth keeping. Something whispered back, not words, the shape of words, the outline you get when a mouth moves and you can't hear yet because you're too far away. I stepped back. My phone rang again. Me. I answered. "This isn't..." "Listen, urgent, raw. There are steps. You wrote them down. You stuck them where you'd look if you panicked. Have you looked..." "Where?" "Where you'd look if you thought you lost your keys." I went to the hook by the door. I moved aside a stupid souvenir magnet shaped like an alligator from a trip I never took. And there it was. A small white index card taped to the door frame, written in my handwriting. "If it starts again, don't swallow. Don't look behind you when the phone pings. Don't open the door unless he knocks twice fast and once slow. If you see him in photos, you're already too deep. Call your mother and ask what you promised. Do not say its name. If the mirror smiles first, cover it. Wait for the dealer. He will ask if you're ready to see. Say no, pay the cost. Forget again. If you're reading this after swallowing, go to the attic. If the pill is still in your hand, it isn't you who swallowed." My chest went cold like I'd stepped into a morgue. I read the list 3 times because my brain kept slipping off the words like oil off glass. I touched the lines to feel the groove of my pen. I had written this, my wrist angle, my habit of crossing my sevens. The door thumped, twice fast, once slow. My mouth went dry. The card in my hand shook, and the hallway had been empty through the peephole. The rule said, "I didn't open the door, not yet." I looked in the mirror in the hall. My reflection stood very still. The watch on his wrist ticked backward. His mouth didn't move. "Just say it," I whispered. "Just say the word and we'll see if names matter." The reflection's eyes widened. He reached for me like he could climb out. He shook his head hard, and his lips formed the shape again, the simplest shape. "Don't." The knocks came again, twice fast, once slow. "What does it cost?" I asked through the door. On the other side, the dealer's voice, "What it always costs." "I don't remember." "That's why you pay." I opened the door. He stood there like he'd grown on the threshold. Dark coat, too neat, hands clean. Windless night, and the tails of his coat lay flat. Up close, he looked older than I'd first thought, and younger than anyone that tired should look. "You called me," I said. He shrugged. "I call you when you call me." I didn't. "You will?" he said. "Memory is elastic from this side." He looked at my hand. The capsule sat in my palm like a small, patient animal. "May I?" he asked, and reached as if to take it. I flinched hard enough to bite my tongue. He didn't touch me. He let his hand fall. "Tell me what this is," I said. "The truth. No drama, no riddles." "It's a tether," he said. "A lock, a way to knot your perception so something vast doesn't notice you noticing it. You keep pulling at the knot. You don't like not knowing. You strain, and then you come find me and ask for the rope that ties you to your ignorance again. The rope is this." He nodded to the capsule. When it dissolves, you stop looking at the hole in the ceiling. You stop hearing your name said from above the room. You go back to being very small and very safe. And if I don't take it, you remember. And remembering draws attention. And attention is food. He said it like a weather report. There will be rain. The river will flood. Remembering draws attention. What does it cost? I asked again. He smiled, but not at me. Past me, maybe at the mirror. The same thing it always does. What's that? What you asked me to take the first time. What did I... Not yet, he said. You don't want the words in the air. If you hear yourself say them, you'll make a decision you can't undo. You're very fond of bits. I've told you in every way you'll let me. Threats, seats in empty rooms, photos. I've tried to scare you, and it doesn't take. You get curious. It's your best and worst thing. You're acting like you like me. Like isn't the word. He put out his hand, palm up, as if asking a dog to smell him. I didn't give him the capsule. I couldn't. Something cheap in me wanted to see the trick up close. I wanted to see how reality rewrote itself when he touched the knot. Show me, I said. Show me what happens if I don't. He didn't sigh. He didn't roll his eyes. He just withdrew his hand and said, then we go the other way. He stepped past me into my apartment. He didn't brush my arm. He didn't cast a shadow on the floor you could see. He stopped by the photo shelf and the albums I'd left crooked and straightened them with a gentleness that made me angry. Do you know why you keep the books? He asked. Because my mother made them, I said. You keep them because they anchor the resets. You made a rule early that physical proof would hold even when your head didn't, but it only holds for so long. He reached out and tilted one spine. Printed letters shimmered. The photo album title changed and then changed back, like a fish turning in water. My phone buzzed on the table. Unknown number. You promised. I almost said the name my mouth had been building in the back of my jaw like a storm. I swallowed the syllables whole, and they sat like stones. The dealer glanced at the hallway mirror. The other me stood there, not moving, eyes wide enough to show white all around. You know the step after the mirror smiles, the dealer said. I grabbed the sheet from my bedroom. I threw it over the mirror like I was dressing a sick thing. The sheet fluttered, then draped. Something thumped once from the other side, polite as a cough. Good, the dealer said. We do this a lot, I said, ears ringing with my own heartbeat. We must, if there are steps. You do it a lot, he said. I do what I'm for. What are you for? He didn't answer. He walked to the kitchen. He looked at the capsule on the laminate as if it were a baby bird. You're going to take it, he said. You always do. You can't live awake. You're not built for it. You weren't supposed to be. What happens when I do? You stop writing notes to yourself. You stop calling yourself. You stop checking the peephole at the same minute each night. You sleep, you breathe, you work, you love. You remember the things that can bear being remembered. And the cost, I asked. If I pay, what do I lose? He looked at me in a way I hadn't been looked at since my father died. Not pity. Affection, maybe. Grief. Something human. And that bothered me more than everything else. You asked me to take the day you met her, he said. The memory of it. The whole day, the small and the bright and the stupid, the smell of her hair and the joke you made that wasn't funny and the bus you missed because you wanted to stand with her under the awning while it rained. You hated that the day made a door in your head. You hated that the door let the looking in. The word her cracked like ice in me. I started, but my mouth knew I did. I saw a flash of a corner booth in a cafe I don't go to. The burn of coffee on a tongue that isn't mine. The shape of a laugh. The color yellow? You asked me to take it the first time you came to me, he said. You said you couldn't help coming back to it. You said it was the day the ceiling made the first sound. You said if you thought about it too long, the room stretched and the hum in the lights got teeth. And you took it. That's the cost, he said. Favorite things. Then why do I keep coming back? Why do I keep waking up to it again? Because you made another promise, he said, to yourself, to her, to the part of you that doesn't want to live small, the part that thinks it's noble to hold the door shut from the inside so other people don't have to hear the knocking. You call it different things each time. I won't repeat the names. He nodded at the capsule. Remembering draws attention. Someone needs to be a decoy. That's what you decided. It's stupid and brave. It's killing you. I laughed. It came out thin. And you help me? I'm a hinge, he said. I swing the door when asked. Are you human? Today. I shouldn't have asked for proof. That's the part of me that makes the mistakes. The one that wants to taste the fire to see if it's burned anyone else. But I did. I said, show me. The dealer nodded as if a box had been ticked. He reached toward the capsule again. This time I didn't flinch. He didn't touch it. He touched the counter beside it, and the laminate sank like dough. The capsule slid toward a dip that hadn't been there, like a marble toward a drain. The seam along its belly split a hair. Something like steam lifted off it and didn't dissipate. The steam stayed in the shape of the capsule, a ghost of it hanging. The kitchen light dimmed and brightened, then went steady. The clock on the stove flipped digits forward 3 times and then spun backward a dozen. It landed on 3:17, the way it always does whenever I notice time. Don't look up, the dealer said. So I looked up. It's not rebellion, it's compulsion. The ceiling above me had hairline cracks running from the light fixture to the walls like a spider web drawn by a nervous hand. The cracks were breathing in and out, in and out. Between the cracks, the ceiling wasn't a ceiling anymore. It was distance. It was something deep, not high. If you've ever stared at a photograph until the grain became ants, you know the feeling. The space above me had texture. A hum started that wasn't from any appliance I own. It vibrated my teeth. Something on the other side of the distance shifted the way whales do under boats. Not a face, not eyes. That would be a kindness. Just mass. Awareness. The sense that whatever was up there had been there before ceilings were invented and would be there after. It became aware of me becoming aware. It was like falling up in a dream and not waking in time. Down, the dealer said. He didn't raise his voice. He pressed 2 fingers to the counter again. The ghost of the capsule sank into the laminate like a coin into water. The smell in the room changed. Not sulfur, not rot. New car, my stupid brain offered. The way smell reaches for anything it knows when faced with something it doesn't. The distance above me flattened. The breathing in the cracks slowed. The hum crawled back into the appliances and pretended to be domestic. You see? He asked. I did. I wanted to be sick, and I wanted to cry, and I wanted to tell him I was brave enough to do it anyway, to hold the knocker's attention with my own eyes, while everyone I loved slept and made pancakes and complained about traffic. I wanted to be the kind of person I tell myself I am. I put the capsule in my mouth. I didn't mean to. My hand did it without me, like brushing a fly away. There it was on my tongue, metallic and bitter. I felt it soften at the seam. I felt the shiver of chemical logic and the snap of now. Wait, the dealer said. I took a sip of water. I swallowed. The room changed the way a headache changes a day, at once and cumulatively. Colors obliged to be what they've been named. Edges decided to be trustworthy. The clock forgot 3:17. The hum of the fridge was a hum again, without the lengthening edges that hinted at teeth. The distance above me went back to cheap plaster, and something else happened. That's the part I didn't expect. The world got smaller, and I felt huge relief flood through me like heat. And under that relief, very quietly, another feeling, grief. Like leaving a party early you only just realized you liked. The dealer watched me without moving. What's the cost? I asked. My voice sounded young. The word her bobbed up and down in my throat like a bad swallow. You already paid, he said. I want to know what I paid, I said. He shook his head. You told me not to tell you afterward. The memory grows back around the scar if you don't know where the scar is. That sounds like something awful people say when they're doing surgery without consent. You asked me to take that too, he said, gently. The outrage. You said it made the knot slip. I laughed. Then I cried a little. I wiped my face on my sleeve like a child who hasn't learned the dignity of paper. What do I do now? I asked. You go to sleep, he said. You take the sheet off the mirror in the morning when the light's wrong for seeing things. You eat something soft and beige. You call your mother and talk about weather. If your hand reaches for photos, smack it. Put the list somewhere you'll find it only when you need it. And when you feel the itch to pull at the knot again, you call me and I'll take something else you love so you can be safe a little longer. I hated him. I loved him. I wanted him to stay until I fell asleep. Do you leave a number? I asked. You always lose it, he said, on purpose. Then how do I find you again? You always find me. Curiosity is a compass. He moved to the door. He paused. The sheet over the mirror fluttered like someone behind it had sighed. The dealer stopped with his hand on the knob. If you hear knocking, not tonight, he said. You let it knock. You count to 100 and it will forget your door. And if it doesn't, then you call me earlier next time. The door closed. I stood in my kitchen with the taste of metal fading like blood after biting the inside of your mouth. I washed the glass I hadn't needed. I stood in the hall and pressed my palm lightly to the sheet. It felt warm, as if the other me had a fever. I slept. I dreamed nothing. I woke to noon like nothing bad had ever happened in a small room anywhere. For 3 days, I was a citizen. I paid bills. I emailed without rereading 12 times. I passed a mirror and saw only what a mirror owes, no extra. The world was what it said on the package. I ate noodles, and they tasted like noodles. I called my mother, and we argued cheerfully about a TV show. I told myself I'd been dramatic. I told myself I was practicing mindfulness badly. On the 4th day, at 3:17 p.m., walking past a storefront on my way to the post office, I glanced at the window's reflection and saw the man in the dark coat standing behind me. He wasn't watching me. He was watching above me. He lifted his hand like a person listening for thunder. I turned around. The sidewalk was empty except for a kid with a scooter and an old woman feeding something small to pigeons. The sky was clean, blue, ordinary. I went home. I took the photo albums down and put them in a box and taped the box shut and told myself I was decluttering because a video on the internet had told me to make room for joy. That night, my phone chimed. Unknown number, you promised. I deleted it. 2 hours later, another turnaround, and I didn't. I put the phone in the freezer because something stupid in me thought cold would slow the signal. On the 5th day, and the ceiling in the shower breathed when the steam hit it. I told myself houses settle. I told myself paint ripples. I told myself to stop it. I lasted 9 days. On the 10th day, I found the index card in my jacket pocket when I reached for my keys. I hadn't put it there, or I had, and I was that good at hiding from myself. If it starts again, the rules held their breath in my hand like animals. The dealer was right. Curiosity is a compass. It points to the worst place every time. I lasted 12 days. On the 13th day, I called a number I didn't remember writing down. The phone rang without sound. He didn't say hello when he answered. He said, "What do you want me to take?" I tasted coffee I hadn't drunk in years. A laugh. A yellow coat, rain under an awning. The day you meet someone, it turns your head into a cathedral. You can hear echoes in there for a long time. Take the day she left, I said, because I am a coward in all the boring ways. Not the day I met her. The day she left. If I don't have it, maybe I won't pull at the knot. Silence. Then very gently, like a nurse with an old wound, we already took that one. I hung up. I put the phone on the table. I put my head in my hands. I sat like that until the light in the kitchen changed color. Something knocked at the door. Twice fast, once slow. I didn't open it. I went to the mirror and took the sheet down. The other me wasn't there. Just me. My tired eyes, my mouth, no watch, no scar. I almost smiled. My phone rang then. Me. I answered. Don't, my voice said, hoarse, choked. Please, don't swallow. Not yet. I already did, I said. No, my voice said and broke like something brittle. You think you did? That's how it starts when you take it too late. You remember swallowing, but you're still holding it. The knot slips. It notices you noticing. Please, wait for me. I looked down. The capsule lay in my palm, dry and perfect, seam unbroken, heavier than anything that small has any right to be. I didn't remember picking it up. I don't remember taking it from the counter. I don't remember it reappearing. But we give our lives away in little increments to the part of us that wants a good story. Where are you? I asked into the phone. In the hall, I said. Open, it's me. Twice fast, once slow, I said. Twice fast, once slow. The knock came, twice fast, once slow. I looked through the peephole, and the hallway bulged toward the lens. The carpet stain looked like an open hand. The air on the other side of the door shimmered with summer heat that isn't possible in a climate-controlled building at night. I can't see you, I said. You never can, I said. It doesn't like witnesses. That's why he wears the coat. It covers the bones you can't look at. Bones, I said, because I am an idiot. Don't say its name, I said, and I heard why my voice was hoarse. I'd been crying. For how long? Hours? Days? You don't hear duration in someone's voice unless you share throat and teeth. I didn't open the door. I held the capsule. I closed my eyes. What does it cost? I asked myself. There was a pause that held a dozen versions of me, all shifting their weight from foot to foot in the hallway, all asking the same favor. What you've been paying since the first day, I said. You asked him to take her. Not just the day. Her. Clean cut at the root, so you'd stop pulling at the knot. You gave away the map, and then you were angry that you couldn't find the road. Something small inside my chest made a thin, high sound, the kind of noise dogs make in their sleep. No, I said softly, like I could argue with gravity. I wouldn't. I couldn't. You did, I said. You cried. You begged. You told him if he didn't do it, you'd do something worse on your own. I want it back, I said, which is like saying I want the day before the storm. I'll take the hurt if I can have the shape. You can't, I said. That's the point of the cost. If you could, you'd spend and then ask for refunds. You'd turn forgetting into a credit card. The hallway light buzzed. The ceiling above me breathed. Somewhere in the plumbing, a pipe coughed like an old smoker. What do we do? I asked myself. On the other end of the line, I shifted my weight. The floorboards in my hall creaked where they always do, because I never fixed the little dip. We wait, I said. We wait for him. We let him ask. We say no. We pay the next cost because we can't do this awake. Not this time. Not with the pill awake in your hand. Pill awake? I asked. Sometimes it starts dissolving when you decide to take it, I said. Not when you swallow. Intent is enough. You learned that after the fourth time. I think it was the fourth or the sixth. We don't agree on numbers anymore. I'm scared, I said. I know, I said, and meant it in a way you can only mean it when you are the person and the witness. The door knocked again, not the pattern, not the dealer. Something patient, weightless, knocking with a rhythm people don't have. I'm tired, I said, and I know, I said. Tell me a rule, I said. Don't look at the ceiling when you think a name, I said. Count instead. Count to 100. Numbers are too small for it to grab. I counted like drowning people. Count seconds, they stay above water. My breath slowed, my eyes blurred. I thought of beige food, of weather conversations, of my mother's laugh when I tell her the wrong story on purpose because she likes the wrong version better. I got to 87 when footsteps sounded on my stairs. Not the building stairs. The stairs I hear in my bones. The ones to the roof I never go to. A coat rustled. The dealer knocked twice fast, once slow. I opened the door. He looked tired in a new way. He smelled faintly like rain that didn't fall. "Ready?" he asked. "No," I said, which was the rule, "but I'll do it anyway." He held out his hand. "What do you want me to take?" "You can't lie at that door." That's another rule I didn't write down because I haven't broken it yet. The hallway carpet breathed around my ankles. The capsule in my palm pulsed once, like a heart that thinks it has a body. "Take the day I met her back," I said, and the words hurt in my mouth the way coins do if you hold them under your tongue too long. "I can't give what I don't own," he said, not unkind, not kind. "Then take something else," I said. "Take the first night after. The one where I didn't sleep and pretended I did. Take the white shirt I ruined with coffee because I wanted to feel something simple, like anger at a stain." "Those are garnish," he said. "You're talking about parsley. The meat is gone." "Then take the smell of the street where the cafe had that door. Take the way the light looked on the puddle. Take my memory of the awning. Take the yellow." He looked at the capsule. He looked at me. He looked at the mirror with the sheet. Something under it breathed slowly, politely. "What about your father's watch?" he asked. And my hand went cold because I don't wear one, and I felt one on my wrist in the wrong time, tight where skin is soft. "That's a trick," I said. "Everything is," he said. "Take the color yellow," I said, because I am petty and broken, and there are days I would rather live in grayscale than pull at a knot that's keeping the rest of you alive. "Take it." "If I can't see that coat in a crowd, I won't look for it," he nodded. "That one's unusual. But if it's what you ask." "What will I do at stoplights?" I asked, because the part of me that jokes when it shouldn't was very loud to drown the part of me that mourns. "You'll do what everyone does," he said. "Follow the person in front." He held out his hand again. I opened my fist. The capsule was gone. It hadn't fallen. It hadn't dissolved. There was an indentation in my skin where it had pressed. He looked at my empty palm, then at my face. "You didn't swallow," he said. He didn't make it a question. "I don't think I did." He nodded very slowly. "Then it's you." I don't know what that means. It means the loop closed somewhere we didn't see. It means intent counted. It means you remembered too soon or forgot too late. It means it is close. The ceiling breathed. The cracks widened, not visibly, but conceptually. The way you know suddenly that a person doesn't love you before they say anything. The air thinned. "Door," the dealer said. "Back. Now." We stepped inside. He closed it. The knocks came, single, gentle, like someone practicing being human. "Say it," the dealer said. "And say what?" "What you asked me not to let you say." My mouth filled with metal. The name sat there like a fish, wanting to be thrown back into water. Names make edges, edges make doors. Doors let things through. "I can't," I said. "You have to," he said, "or it will say yours first." The thing above the ceiling moved. The mirror under the sheet pressed outward like a chest. My phone in the kitchen vibrated without stopping. I said the name. I didn't know that I knew it until it was out of my mouth, a shape that tasted like old pennies and alcohol swabs. It didn't fit human throats. It came out wrong. It fizzed in the air like dry ice dropped in a glass. The apartment tilted. The ceiling rolled. The door rattled, not from knocks, but from weather. The dealer didn't move. He looked at me like a teacher looks at a kid who just pronounced a word long enough to read a book alone. "It hears you," he said. "I hear it," I whispered. My ears rang. My heart tried to climb out of my ribs. I heard my name then, not through walls, not through phone. But in the thought voice that says I should buy milk, it said my name with the intonation my father used when he was about to introduce me to someone he wanted me to impress. Proud, warm, wrong, I dropped to my knees like the room had gotten heavier. I put my palms on the floor to hold on to something that pretended to be stable. "Take something," I said to the dealer. "Take anything. Take everything. Just make it stop being proud of me." He crouched, close. His coat smelled like clean places in old buildings. He put his hand on my shoulder, and it was like stepping off ice onto wood. "I can take the day before you met her," he said. "You won't know why you walked down that street. You won't know why the knot exists. You'll be a man knocking on a door in his own head he can't find. You'll be safe and sad in a way that can't be fixed." "Do it," I said. "Please, I can't be the lighthouse I wanted to be. I can't." He nodded once. "Say it," he said, "so it knows." I said, "I'm not ready to see." Something in the room sighed. Not air, something like a rope relaxing. The ceiling took a step back. The mirror under the sheet lay flat. The phone stopped buzzing, mid-vibration, like it had been caught doing something it shouldn't. The dealer put 2 fingers lightly against my forehead, like a blessing. For a second, there was nothing in the room but sound. An old tape, starting, static finding station. A child counting to 10 with their fingers outstretched. He didn't touch my skin. Not exactly. He touched whatever part of me remembers doors. A page flipped somewhere inside my chest. Yellow melted out of the room. The legal pad on my desk went beige. The lemons in the bowl on the counter turned the color of old bones. A sticky note lost its happiness and kept its glue. "What did you do?" I asked, and my voice sounded wrong, like I was speaking from a hallway. "What you asked," he said. "You'll hate me again tomorrow. You'll write me names to call me, and then you'll do your best to forget me. It's kinder." "I'm already forgetting," I said. The words slipped like fish. I reached for them, and my hands closed on water. He stood. He went to the door. He paused there like a person pauses to listen to a house settle. "You'll come find me again," he said without looking back. "I don't want to." "You will," he said, and it didn't sound like a threat. Curiosity is a compass. He left. The door clicked. I sat on the floor with my palms flat against the cheap wood and counted the lines until they were just lines. I slept for a long time. I woke to a sky that didn't think about me at all. Days went by. Beige food, weather. The mirror showed what it owed. The ceiling was ceiling. The numbers on the stove clock went where they should and only when they should. I didn't think about awnings. I didn't think about yellow. I didn't think about her. I didn't think about the man at the threshold with the coat and the clean hands, or the way his voice sounded like it had learned to speak from old films. Tonight, the phone buzzed. "Unknown number, you promised." I wrote this instead of answering. I found the index card where I'd taped it to the inside of a kitchen cabinet where I keep rice. I read it and pretended not to memorize it again. I put the albums in a box and pushed the box under my bed, and told myself I was not hiding them, just keeping them safe from dust. There's a small black capsule on my table. I don't remember taking it from anywhere. I don't remember buying it. The seam runs around its belly like a smile. I called a number I didn't save, and a voice exactly like mine answered, even though I didn't say hello. He said, "Don't swallow." I said, "I'm tired." He said, "I know." I asked what it costs. He said, "What it always does." I'm holding the pill in my palm. It's heavier than last time. Or I remember it heavier. Or I remember, and that makes it heavy. I want to be noble, the way kids think firefighters are noble. I want to be the kind of person who can look up into the distance above a ceiling and keep looking long enough to set other people to sleep. I want to be the hinge and the door and the hand on the knob. I am not that person. I am the person who writes himself notes in kitchen cabinets. I am the person who tapes sheets over mirrors and counts to 100 and pays in favorite things. I am the person who bargains with colors. I am the person who will be safe and sad and make jokes at stoplights about how nobody knows when to go. I can hear knocking, not the door. The thought of a door twice fast, once slow. I won't open it, not yet. I'll wait for the man in the coat. I'll let him ask his question. I'll say no. I'll pay the cost because I can't carry everything, and the thing above the ceiling eats attention, and I keep feeding it like a fool. If you hear this later, in a voice that sounds like mine, in a room that breathes if you look up, don't judge me for choosing smallness. Don't call me a coward because I let the day before the day vanish like steam. Don't ask me to be your hero. Heroes need names that can be said out loud. I'm going to put the capsule down now. I'm going to hold it a little longer. I'm going to look at my hand and make sure it's still there. I think I'm going to... It's me. Calling again. Thanks for listening. I really enjoyed putting this story together for you. If you liked it, hit that like button, subscribe for more stories, and share it with someone who's into this kind of stuff. See you next time.